Gouverneur Morris, the man who wrote "We, the People." Most of the founding fathers were farmers, lawyers, or generals. Gouverneur Morris was none of those things. He was a one-legged aristocrat with a razor-sharp tongue, a taste for danger, and a gift for words that would shape the nation. He wrote the Preamble to the U.S. Constitution, survived the French Revolution, and spent 20 years pining for the love of his life. He was also a man of contradictions, a defender of democracy who distrusted the masses, a critic of slavery who compromised with slaveholders, and a romantic who believed in second chances. This is the story of how a peg-legged New Yorker with a flair for drama helped build a nation. One sentence at a time. Gouverneur Morris was born on January 31, 1752, into one of New York's wealthiest families. His father, Lewis Morris Jr., owned Morrisania, a 1,900-acre estate in what is now the Bronx. But privilege didn't shield him from tragedy. When Gouverneur was 12, his father died, leaving the family in financial turmoil. 2 years later, disaster struck again. While playing with a friend, his leg was crushed in a carriage accident. The injury was gruesome. Doctors tried to save the limb, but infection set in. For years, Morris endured painful treatments, but the damage was irreversible. Finally, in 1777, at the age of 25, he agreed to amputation. The wooden leg he wore for the rest of his life was a constant source of pain, but Morris refused to let it define him. He taught himself to ride horses, dance, and even climb stairs with a peg leg. As he later joked, it was a small price to pay for never having to tie his shoes. He graduated from King's College, now Columbia University, at 16, finished his law studies by 19, and was admitted to the bar. By 25, he was a rising star in New York politics. But the American Revolution was coming, and Morris's life was about to take a dramatic turn. Morris's family was divided by the Revolution. His half-brother, Stotts Long Morris, was a British general. His mother and stepfather were Loyalists, but Gouverneur chose the side of the rebels. In 1775, he joined the New York Provincial Congress, where his fiery speeches earned him a reputation as one of the most eloquent voices of the Revolution. His first major act? Drafting New York's 1777 state constitution. This wasn't just any document, it was a radical blueprint for democracy. It abolished feudal tenures, guaranteed religious freedom, and included a Bill of Rights. It was so progressive that it influenced the U.S. Constitution a decade later. But Morris wasn't just a theorist. He served as a lieutenant in the New York militia, drilling soldiers and preparing for battle. When the British invaded New York in 1776, his family's estate was burned to the ground. Morris fled to Philadelphia, where he joined the Continental Congress and worked alongside George Washington, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. His most famous contribution during this time? Writing the final draft of the Articles of Confederation. But Morris wasn't satisfied. He believed the Articles were too weak, too decentralized. He wanted a stronger federal government, one that could unite the states and secure the nation's future. His chance to fix those flaws came in 1787. The Constitutional Convention was a pressure cooker. The young nation was on the brink of collapse. States were squabbling, the economy was in shambles, and the Articles of Confederation had failed. The delegates knew they needed something stronger, but they couldn't agree on what that should look like. Morris, now 35, was one of the most active participants. He spoke 173 times, more than anyone else. He argued for a strong central government, a single executive, not a committee, and a system of checks and balances to prevent tyranny. But his most radical ideas were even more controversial. He proposed lifetime appointments for senators to insulate them from public pressure. He opposed property qualifications for voting, calling them aristocratic. He helped design the Electoral College as a compromise between congressional selection and popular vote. He also proposed the 3/5 compromise, which counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for representation and taxation. Morris hated slavery. He called it a nefarious institution and warned that it would bring the judgment of heaven on a country. But he believed the compromise was necessary to keep the southern states in the Union. When the time came to draft the final version of the Constitution, Morris was chosen to lead the Committee of Style. This wasn't just about grammar. It was about crafting a document that would inspire a nation. Morris took the rough drafts and disjointed ideas of the convention and wove them into a masterpiece of clarity and power. The Preamble, with its iconic opening, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union," was his work. So were many of the Constitution's most memorable phrases. But Morris didn't stop there. He fought for the Bill of Rights, arguing that without protections for individual liberties, the Constitution would never be ratified. His words helped shape the document that would define America's government for centuries to come. After the Constitution was ratified, Morris's career took an unexpected turn. In 1789, he was appointed Minister Plenipotentiary to France, a role that placed him in the heart of the French Revolution. Morris arrived in Paris in 1789, just as the revolution was beginning. The streets were alive with revolutionaries, the air thick with the scent of gunpowder and the cries of "Liberté, égalité, fraternité." Morris, the one-legged American diplomat, was right in the middle of it. He was a close friend of Marie Antoinette and King Louis XVI, and he witnessed their downfall firsthand. He advised them on their options, though he doubted their chances of escape. When the royal family attempted to flee in the flight to Varennes, 1791, Morris was not directly involved, but his dispatches to the U.S. government provide some of the most vivid accounts of the chaos. By 1792, the revolution had turned violent. The Reign of Terror began, and thousands were sent to the guillotine. Morris stayed in Paris, risking his life to secure loans for the young United States and smuggling messages to American prisoners. His diaries from this period are a masterclass in observation, capturing the horror and hope of the revolution. In one entry, he wrote, "The mob is the most cruel of all tyrants. It is not the sword of the despot that is to be feared, but the pike of the sans-culotte." Morris left France in 1794, just as the terror reached its peak. His time there had been a whirlwind of diplomacy, danger, and drama, and it had cemented his reputation as one of America's most daring diplomats. Morris's personal life was as dramatic as his public one. In 1786, while serving in the Continental Congress, he met Anne Carey Randolph, a young woman from one of Virginia's most prominent families. But their love was forbidden. Anne was the sister-in-law of Thomas Jefferson, and her family disapproved of Morris's reputation as a flirt. Their relationship was a whirlwind of passion and secrecy. Morris wrote her letters filled with longing, addressing her as "my dearest girl." But their love story took a dark turn when Anne's sister, Nancy Randolph, was accused of infidelity with her brother-in-law, Richard Randolph. The scandal rocked Virginia society, and Anne was implicated as a witness. Though the rumors were never proven, the damage was done. Anne fled to Europe, where she lived in poverty, working as a governess. Morris never forgot her. In 1809, after 20 years apart, he tracked her down in Europe and proposed immediately. Their marriage was unconventional. They lived apart for long periods due to his political work, but their love letters reveal a deep bond. They had one son, Gouverneur Morris, Jr., who would later become a prominent railroad executive. Morris spent his later years at Morrisania, his family's estate in the Bronx. He continued to write, speak out on political issues, and advocate for the causes he believed in. He opposed the War of 1812, arguing it was unnecessary and unwinnable. He predicted it would bankrupt the nation and lead to British occupation of American cities, a prophecy that came true in 1814 with the burning of Washington, D.C. He chaired the Erie Canal Commission, 1810-1813, helping plan one of the 19th century's most transformative infrastructure projects. The canal would connect the Great Lakes to the Atlantic, fueling America's economic growth. He advocated for a national currency system, building on his earlier work as Superintendent of Finance, 1781-1785, where he established the Bank of North America and proposed a decimal-based currency, the precursor to the U.S. dollar. Morris died on November 6, 1816, at the age of 64. His last words, spoken to his wife, were, "I have always discharged my duty to the best of my ability, and I hope that my country will do me justice." Gouverneur Morris is often overlooked in the pantheon of founding fathers. He wasn't a president like Washington or Jefferson, nor a military hero like Hamilton or Lafayette. But his contributions were just as vital. He was the man who gave the Constitution its voice, who navigated the chaos of the French Revolution, and who lived a life as dramatic as the era he helped shape. His story is a reminder that history isn't just made by the men who lead armies or occupy the highest offices. It's also made by the thinkers, the writers, the diplomats, the people who shape the ideas that define a nation. Next time you hear the words, "we the people," remember Gouverneur Morris, the one-legged wordsmith who dared to imagine a better world and found the words to bring it to life. Gouverneur, thank you for watching. Our goal at Memoria Revelata is to share the stories of the forgotten and underappreciated heroes from our past. We focus on those that made America what it is today and those that can inspire us to make it what it can become in the future. If you would like to do more research into today's hero, we listed the sources we used for our research in the notes. If you enjoyed the story, please like the video. If you would like to hear more stories of forgotten American heroes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you again for watching.